Hi, welcome to biology. My name is Melissa Hero, and I am your student's teacher this year. I'm a proud graduate of Carmel High School. I grew up in Belmont, and after graduating from Carmel, I went to UC Davis and I got my degree in avian sciences. So as you can tell, I'm a huge bird nerd. In biology, we are focusing on the Next Generation Science Standards, or NGSS, for biology. And NGSS is fairly new. It's been around for about 13 years, but most schools are really fully starting to implement it just about now. And it's definitely something that is different from when you were in high school. So the disciplinary core ideas are kind of your traditional standards, what you might have been familiar with when you were in high school. So ecology, genetics, evolution, cells, human body, things like that. So we'll be looking at those same sorts of ideas. However, there are two other dimensions of this science standards. So the science and engineering practices are next, and this is really kind of the meat of what we're doing. These are the practices or the skills that students are going to be using to understand those disciplinary core ideas. And then the cross-cutting concepts are concepts that students will find in all of their different science classes. They overlap between physics and chemistry and earth science and life sciences. One of my favorite things that I did when I was a senior at Carmel was I was in an advanced biology class and we got to do a biotechnology unit. And it was the coolest thing ever. And since I've been teaching here at Carmel, the freshmen get to do the labs in their freshman year, their 9th grade or 10th grade class, depending on when they're in biology. And they don't have to wait till senior year. And so up in the top corner, you'll see a picture of 3 Petri dishes with E. coli bacteria in them. One of them happens to be glowing green. What students are going to do is a bacterial transformation lab where they take a segment of DNA from jellyfish that makes a green fluorescent protein that fluoresces under UV light. And they're inserting that segment of DNA into E. coli bacteria. And the bacteria then will start producing that jellyfish protein. So students, it's one of my favorite units. Students are going to love it. So how is this class different? I mentioned it's different than when we were all in high school. So according to the National Framework for Science Education, students need more figuring out and less learning about, basically less being talked at, not told things, but students need to experience and figure things out. So the goal is for students to become self-directed problem solvers in our class. And what that means is that they're going to be figuring things out. They're going to be trying to solve a phenomena, something that's local, something that's interesting, and they're going to use their background knowledge that they come in with, and they're going to build coherence as we're moving throughout the entire unit. And the teacher is going to be acting more as a facilitator. So I'm not going to just be a deliverer of information. I'm not going to sit and lecture at the students. I want them to figure things out. So it might be a little different for them and for you to see this. And it's not like I'm just sitting back and saying, okay, kids, have at it. I'm developing lessons that are structured and with a particular purpose of how the students are going to learn things. And I'll be there to jump in and to give direct instruction when needed to make sure that all students are successful and are learning in the class this year. Students are going to be doing a lot of collaboration and they're going to be working in teams to help them make sense of that phenomena. Right now we're looking at the salt marsh harvest mouse in the San Francisco estuary and how it might be having some problems because of the effects of climate change that are evident right now. So it's a shift in practice. What we did before, what we're used to is that we might have discrete units for each topic, and there'd be lecture, maybe some book work, some reading in the textbook, and then sometimes some labs, but then a summative assessment at the end. And what we do now is we might have, with our phenomenon, we might be pulling things in from different areas of biology. And so students are kind of seeing how they work in context. And there's going to be lots of formative assessments throughout the unit to help them build that context. And there will be lots of feedback provided to students so that they can learn and grow and move forward. There will be summative assessments at the end that are looking for students to make connections between the cross-cutting concepts, the science and engineering practices with the content that we're learning. So before it was more memorization, Now it's more sense making, where students are trying to understand and figure out what's happening in the phenomena. Another thing that is going to be different in our class is we're going to be using standards-based grading. And here, students are assessed on the mastery of the science and engineering practices. So students are provided lots of feedback to allow them to practice, to learn, to grow. And they're going to be assessed on those same science and engineering practices all throughout the school year as we're learning different content. And so what standards-based grading really does is it focuses on student learning. And students aren't just getting arbitrary points for like doing school, for turning in an assignment on time, for bringing in Kleenex for extra credit. Students are being assessed where their mastery is in their standards. And so they're being assessed for their actual learning. Now, right now, if you look in Canvas, you might see up at the top that your student has a total of a 0% and F. And I want to dispel any fears that you might have. None of our students currently have Fs in biology. This is because of how standards-based grading works. As of right now, students aren't getting letter grades. They aren't getting points for assignments. We just had our first assessment where they were assessed on 3 different standards, and that went into the learning mastery gradebook, where students, you'll see rubrics on how they're doing and what they need work on, and you'll see feedback there. At each grading period, except for first quarter progress reports, students will have their learning mastery rubric scores be translated into letter grades through the calculation process. And I'm not going to do that for first quarter progress reports, which the first quarter progress ends this Friday, because I've only assessed the students on those 3 standards one time, and I don't feel it's fair to give them a grade based on that. Because the first time, students they don't do well because it's brand new to them, and so they need more practice and more times to reassess and to show their mastery as they're growing. So the learning mastery gradebooks and feedback will be provided all the time for students. When they get letter grades, because they need it for their transcript, will be at the grading report periods. Now in our Canvas course, if you're on the home page, you can click on standards-based grading FAQs, and you'll find some videos and explanations of standards-based grading if you have not yet seen those. So the assessments, most will be open notebook. And again, they're assessed on the SEPs through tasks that contain related disciplinary core ideas, as well as the cross-cutting concepts. There will be reassessments. So students, if they don't feel that they did well and they want to reassess, they can. If they choose not to reassess at the time, that's okay, because there's going to be many opportunities throughout the semester to be assessed on the same standards. And the most recent assessments are worth more than the past assessments. So as they get better over time, those newer scores are going to be worth more. And so that will show their mastery. Some other information, we don't have a textbook that we're using. However, if you want your student to have a textbook as a resource, they can check one out. They can visit me at office hours during flex or make appointments to see me at lunch. And there's some information if you want to donate to our class through the Carmel Academic Foundation. There's a link there. I also have a Donors Choose page and an Amazon wish list if you want to donate or provide support for our class. And then if you have any questions, I know there's probably tons of questions about how your students are doing with standards-based grading, because that's brand new to everyone. So please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to help, to explain things, to walk you through how to look at standards-based grading. It's new for your students, it's new for you, and so I want to make sure that you feel comfortable. The beginning is always a little bit of an unknown, but students and parents end up really loving it once we kind of get into it and they get used to it and understand how it works. And also feel free to follow us on our class Instagram to kind of see what we're doing in the classroom. I thank you so much for watching this, and have a great day.